Hello, and it's Manic Monday. Wish it was snow anyway. So the whole point of these videos is to, they're sometimes a bit tongue-in-cheek, but humour is a very effective tool at tackling very, very, very serious issues. And I'm focusing on anti-woke and anti-alt-right, and wanting to be a superior form of journalism that's objective, challenges power and influence and the elite and the rich. Okay? And that is the whole point of this. It's not to point fingers, it's basically anyone committing abuse and harassment of normal people, and just trying to lie about it. I mean, let's see what you make of this first one. It's Steve Piers Morgan, I've got all the respect for. I mean, the woke basically ganged up on him and got him out of Good Morning Britain. Where was Susanna Reid? She was supportive. She's Queen Bee now. And if you watch Good Morning Britain, when they're introduced, okay, it's always a woman's name who comes first. Just small observation. So this see what you think of this. He's talking to Mick Huckabee, who is the US ambassador to Israel, and let's just see what you think of this section. It's to get you thinking. That's the whole point.
The images of 60,000 male migrants rushing into shocking and terrifying, no matter what your political views may be. But it's impossible to separate politics from the fallout which has followed. Spain says that almost all of the men have now been sent back across the small border its exclave shares with Morocco. The Trump administration, however, is determined to make an example of a left-wing Spanish government that it does not support. Vice President J.D. Vance said, quote, "The images out of Spain are an unfortunate reminder of radical left-wing globalist policies." Well, the president himself called it an invasion and vowed to make Ceuta a talking point in the midterm elections.
If we're not in office, our country will be invaded at levels that made Spain look small town. And when I watched it, I said, boy, I'm going to say it because I knew you were going to be at Camp David. And I said, that's going to be a talking point for the big terms. Because when you look at what happened to Spain, they don't know what to do. And it's happening again today. They're coming in by the tens of thousands. They're just invading the country.
Now, to be clear, Ceuta is on the North African coast. It's a Spanish territory, has been for almost 500 years, but migrants have to claim asylum or they're sent back. Very few make it onto the mainland, but it doesn't stop them trying. Similar smaller crushes happen every couple of years. And critics of Spain's liberal government say a recent amnesty for illegal immigrants drove this extraordinary crush. For his part, Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez has condemned fake news, prejudice and ignorance, while his officials say an influx of this scale required organisation. And that's where the US and Israel have been drawn into this. The gleeful commentary from some Israeli and US officials, coupled with the complex bromance between their countries and the Moroccan king, have led many to accuse them of a plot. And it's not just conspiracy theorists. The Moroccan king has just named a major road after Trump. The Donald J. Trump Highway stretches into Western Sahara, a massive disputed territory which the US says belongs to Morocco. Responding to comments by Israel's UN ambassador Danny Danon, the Spanish transport minister said, well, it all seems to be becoming quite clear. Mike Huckabee is the US ambassador to Israel, and he rejoins me now on Uncensored. So I want to start with a quote from the Spanish actor Javier Bardem, a big Hollywood star. He reshared social media posts blaming Israel for what happened in Ceuta, saying we don't know who engineered this crisis, but we know who benefits from a weakened, destabilized Spain, Israel, and the Western far right eager to turn migration into a weapon against Muslims. What is your response to that? Because he reflects a lot of the theories being put out that somehow the Israelis are behind all this. It suits them and the Americans to stir things up with the migrants so that it puts pressure on the Spanish Prime Minister and it exposes the European migrant problem for what it is.
It sounds like Javier needs to stick to reading a script that someone else wrote. He's not very good at coming up with his own ideas. That's ridiculous. To say that somehow this is a U.S.-Israel conspiracy, and that's why all those young men flooded to the coast, it's nonsense. I mean, I don't know what's next. Israel and the U.S. are going to be accused of the joint kidnapping of the Lindbergh baby back in the 20s, maybe the downing of the Hindenburg. Where does this stop? Everything that seems to happen on earth, somebody has this nutty idea that it must be Israel and or the United States who would be behind it. Why don't you just accept the fact that there were these people who were wanting to get to that part of Spain? They were deported, but I guess I would wonder, since the Spanish have been so very critical of the policies, let's say of Israel, of not creating a second state for Palestinians, why didn't they create a state for those people that wanted to immigrate to their country?
Who do you think was behind it? It certainly seemed to have been very well orchestrated and planned. What would your best theory be as to who and why?
Honestly, Pierce, I wouldn't have a theory because I think it's really ridiculous for me, or frankly anyone else, who doesn't have any facts about why they came, to just suddenly invent something. I think that's what's wrong in the world today. We have so many people coming up with these wild theories, and most of them don't hold enough water to put in a thimble. And this is a great example where people don't recognize the U.S. and Israel both have plenty on their plates right now. Neither country needs to be inventing some ridiculous conspiracy theory, or more importantly, actually orchestrating the moving of almost 50,000 people from one place to the other. I mean, that's a pretty big logistical challenge. And for somebody to just come up out of the clear blue sky, yep, that looks like what Israel and the U.S. is doing, really, they need to get a better kind of argument, because that one simply falls apart.
Danny Danon said Spain, which never misses an opportunity to lecture Israel, has declared a state of emergency in Ceuta following the crisis over its immigration policy. Maybe before it continues lecturing us, it's time it explained to the world why it still maintained colonial enclaves in Africa. Would you agree with that sentiment?
I actually would. I know Ambassador Danon. I've known him for over 20 years. I thought it was a pretty good observation. All of this talk about that Israelis are creating a colonized area. What is Spain doing? How come there is this particular piece of property? I think those are valid questions. I'm glad the ambassador raised them.
Let's just turn.
Right, I'm looking at the media narrative. Is there any balance? Well, I didn't see Piers criticise America's role or Israel's role at all, even though they've broken many laws. Both men committed fraud, war crimes, none of that. It just allowed Mick Huckabee as much time as possible to answer. That's my first observation. Israel has dabbled in Africa. It now has a new base in Djibouti, and it used to sell arms to the Derg communist regime in Ethiopia until that was overthrown in 1991. They're also interfering in this Sudan, as far as I'm aware. I like the way Huckabee basically says, it wasn't us, no, it wasn't me, it's the other three, it's the same far left. Far left? Into people just with conscience. And a lot of those refugees, where does it come from? Countries that are sanctioned, or have been bombed, or where there's internal strife, or wars, or economic misery, no hope. And because we live in a economic, financial, global system controlled by the Americans mostly, excuse me, of course there's going to be fingers pointed at them, which is only true and right. Right, and that's the end of part one. I hope you enjoyed. See you soon.